Lights, camera, action, let the show begin. Beverly Digital Network, now we locked in. Double BD and yeah, we really
Attention, all of my elevated content seekers. We Believe Digital is designed to inspire. Whether it's music, news, entertainment, We Believe Digital has the content that you don't want to miss. We're bringing you the best in news, entertainment, sports, inspiration, and so much more. Not only are we designed to inspire, but you can advertise with us and reach your target audience now. Got something that you believe in? Well, we believe in you, and we're offering you the opportunity to become a podcaster at We Believe Digital Studios. To become a want to know more? You can contact us at www.webelievedigital.com. And while you're at it, be sure to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Roku at We Believe Digital.
Good afternoon. Well, this is a special edition of We Believe Digital Broadcast Network. You know, it's been a while now since I've had the honor to have my distinguished colleague in the studio with me, and I have missed him dearly. And I've gotten so many calls about where is Doc and when is Doc coming back. So you'll be glad to know that Doc is in the studio. Now, to those of you that are watching us on Facebook, share this program with your friends and family. Send us stars. You know, we need your support. We are growing African-American owned broadcasting network right here in Jackson, Mississippi. If you're watching us on YouTube, share the program with your friends and family. Hit the notification bell so that you won't miss any of these important shows. This content you won't find anywhere else. And stay with me now, because we're going to be talking about things that really matter. We're not going to be talking about too much fluff. We're going to get right into the main issues of the day. And well, hopefully this program will be brought to you on a consistent, more frequent basis. But right now, I want to go to my co-host. Doc, how have you been?
I have been doing fine, sir.
Well, that is a wonderful thing. It's good to have you back in the studio.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have really missed you, and our viewers and our audience all over the world has been inquiring as to your whereabouts.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been right here in Jackson, Mississippi, Bolton, Mississippi, traveling around the great state of Mississippi. And every now and then I will get an invitation to go down to, I call it, it's up to Memphis, and a few times in Louisiana since we talked last.
Wow. Have you been on a speaking engagement?
That's what I've been doing. I called it a little speaking and a little workshopping, little seminars, things like that.
Things like that.
Yes.
Well, Doc, let's get right into our program today. Yesterday was Father's Day. I had an opportunity to go to church. I went out to Bishop Ronnie Kruger's church in Flowood, Mississippi, out in Rankin County, Doc. And we had a great Father's Day celebration. How was your Father's Day?
Well, my Father's Day was 100%, just the way I like it. I went to work and worked on Father's Day from 11 until 9 p.m.
Doc, you went to work yesterday?
Yes.
And worked from 11 to 9 p.m.?
Correct.
Did you go to church?
No, I didn't go to church, but I did pass 5 or 6 of them. And there were people there, more than in the past when I would pass on Sundays.
So you passed the church?
Many churches.
But you didn't go in?
Well, I didn't go in because I didn't see a good parking space. I passed around 10:45. And I just didn't see a parking space, and I didn't want to park in the streets. So I just kept on kicking.
Now, Doc, a lot of people yesterday were talking about Happy Father's Day to our Heavenly Fathers. And I was a little bit confused and perplexed by that. I don't know if they celebrate Father's Day in heaven or not.
Well, you don't. No one knows. And that's a good thing, I would think. We're not supposed to know too much about heaven because that's a mystery. And man really don't know other than what he has been told by others or what he can believe in his inner conscience. So heaven is a mystery as same as hell. So we don't know about it other than what we have told and what the so-called philosophers have indicated. And they don't know anything about it either.
Now, Doc, I was told that the gentleman went to heaven and he was at the gate with St. Peter, and they was asking him, you know, what kind of citizen was he, because they were going to give you a mode of transportation. And so they were asking him questions like, did you ever steal? He said, a little bit. He said, did you ever cheat on your wife? Every once in a while. And they said, well, you can get in, but you're going to have to ride a bicycle while you're in heaven. And so he took his bicycle and he would ride, and then he stopped on the side of the road to rest for a moment. And Doc, his wife passed by on a skateboard. Now, that shocked him a great deal. Obviously, she hadn't lived the kind of life that would warrant a new Chevrolet or Cadillac.
Well, let me tell you what you don't want to hear, Mr. Socrates. There are very few people that I've known throughout my long life that have met the qualifications to get into this man-made heaven that's in the Bible. Very, very, very difficult. And as we have talked about this in the past, I told you there are not a lot of requirements to get in heaven. And basically, if you want to do it in a general manner, you could just say, if you know the 10 Commandments, you can get in. But I've been around in the ministry for at least 40 years, and I haven't found a person yet that could get up and tell me the 10 Commandments, and I've offered $100. Not all of them. They can't get no higher than 7. And out of those folks and the others that I didn't ask about the 10 Commandments, I know very few that I've seen that practice those commandments. And it takes more than that to get into this man-made heaven that we've been reading about in the Bible. So I want people to do the best to try to get there, but they need to really think about what it really takes to get into this unknown land in the sky called heaven.
Now, Doc, you brought up the issue of the 10 Commandments. I believe Moses was the author of the 10 Commandments. Well, I guess God passed it down to him, but he's the one that brought it back to the people. Is that right?
That's what it says in the Bible, yes. In some of the versions, you know, they have over 4,500 different Bibles in the world, and that is basically in the so-called Christian King James Version and some of the Revised Standard Bibles and others. That's the story they have, but if you read others, you'll find something totally different.
You mean there's a different story that will tell you how to gain access to heaven in a different book?
In many different books, and if you look at it, the Bible is a recent document, according to some of the Bibles and books that we have read and that's on record. That's a very recent document. And all this information about Jesus Christ and all his so-called doctrines and commandments and regulations and guidelines, you know, that's just been probably about 2,000 some years ago when Jesus was on earth.
Right.
So that's a whole new version. And there are other Bibles and stories similar to that that's over 5,000 years of age. And if you look at some of those old Bibles, you'll find they had versions about Jesus in heaven, the blind man, and walking on water, and the Son is the ruler and the king of the world, and on and on and on. So it's just a revisement, or what we call a revision, I would say, of those old books. Most people don't want to believe that, and I don't blame them, because a lot of people, Mr. Socrates, are making a lot of money out of religion, and nothing wrong with that, because I do believe strongly in capitalism. Any way you can make money that's legal, one should do it, especially if you live in a capitalistic society as we do here in America and Europe and some of the other places.
That doesn't mean there are some crimes that are considered worse than others.
Of course it is.
And blasphemy is one of those. To author yourself as a messenger of God and you not be living according to those standards seems to be a more serious crime than a bank robbery.
Well, I wouldn't say so, but that's your opinion, sir.
Well, that's my opinion. And so when I go to church, I look for authentic representation in the pulpit. I look for someone who says that, follow me as I follow Christ or I follow God. I look for someone who represents that they are living in a holy manner, that their lifestyles and demeanors are different than those of us that are not as polished or not as aware or not as gifted as they are. So I do hold that to a higher standard.
Well, so do I. When I go to church, that's what I look forward to. And I want to find those honorable men and women that know the rules and regulations according to the King James Version or some of those other modern versions and actually carry them out in their daily lives on a daily basis. I do attend church from time to time.
Well, good. I'm glad to know that. So let's talk about these other philosophies and books. Let's talk about Minister Louis Farrakhan, for example. Let's talk about Malcolm X. I believe they were of a different religious persuasion. And so they had a different viewpoint. But I'm not exactly sure that if they were reading from the same Bible that I'm reading from.
No, they were not. They were not reading from the same Bible. And everyone shouldn't have the same Bible. Since men are considered individuals, they ought to have their own thinking ability. And you usually learn what's in your environment. So if you're in the Arab world or in the Christian world or the Jewish world, you're usually going to be influenced by whatever that culture is in your area of birth or in the region of the country that you were born in. And that's what you're going to learn until you go and do some independent research on your own and come up with something different. Because when you look at your narrow version as to where you were trained, you will find that others have done much better than you have with a new version or a new religion or a new economic system than what you have been taught.
Well, African Americans, I mentioned Farrakhan and I mentioned Malcolm because those are two brothers that have risen in stature, in my mind, at the highest level in the African American community.
I can agree.
There were others that ascended to that position, Martin Luther King and Du Bois and Booker T and Frederick Douglass and all these guys. They hold a different place in stature in our communities. And so I don't know if they all were Christians or not, but maybe you do.
Well, sir, you don't have to be a Christian to know what's right and do right. There was nothing wrong with Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Farrakhan, and others. All of them had good ideas, but some of those ideas were not as good as others. To give you an example, Dr. King and his group were great men and women, and they believed that you're supposed to abandon what you have and integrate with society, leave what you have behind, and put your resources with others and suffer their consequences. Because when you leave what you have, people are not going to have any respect for you, and they're going to give you just enough to maintain themselves and keep you broke economically and not give you a position to be what we call equal competitors in their new societies. That's a new society for those that are invited into it. And I guarantee you, all you're going to do when you come from one society, one culture, or one group, and get in another, they're going to maintain the status quo and keep you at the entry level. And if you say anything that is leading them to believe that you're going to leave them, they will give you a slight promotion and get you on up to an assistant, to a manager, to a director, to a vice president, and only one or two in each organization. But when you look at Malcolm X and Mr. Farrakhan and some of those others, they say you are your own man. You can be competitive with others with your resources, with your territory, with your business mind. You can build your stores, your schools, your universities, your clinics, your hospitals, and man those with your people that you are trained, and you don't have to worry about others that's going to let you come into the door but block you before you get out of the room that you entered.
And Doc, I don't believe African Americans came into the environment voluntarily. I believe there was a tremendous cruel approach to bringing Africans into this country. So we didn't get up one day and say we want to walk over into a new society and be a part of it and leave what we were taught or what we believe. That's not the way the story went.
Of course, I agree with that.
Okay, so when you were drawn into something and when you put into something that you did not seek out, then you have to acclimate. You have to do as the Romans do when you're in Rome.
Well, that's true. But when you get in a position in life where you have some so-called semi-independence and you have an opportunity to build your own systems, you have to start with where you are, with what you have, with your own leaders, and gradually increase your economic power, your leadership abilities, your religion, and your education and training, and build from there. You don't just abandon all you have and go to the new man that has created the problem, the man that created the problems that got you here, and then slave you for 400 or 500 years, and then 200 years after then as a non-human. In the Constitution, you were not recognized. You were not considered anyone as important in the Declaration of Independence. You just were never considered. I'm talking about the black people that came over as slaves, and I don't worry about that too much, but they had that opportunity to work hard, got free room and board, medical care. Everybody was guaranteed a job, and you were fed enough to keep you alive, work you until they killed you around 45 to 55. And that's all you had for 400 plus years. And then after so-called slavery, from 1866 up until the 1960s, black folks and those former slaves members lived just about 7 years longer. They would die in 55 to 60. That is the history of America.
Now, Doc, let's go back for a minute, because history now is being rewritten. I understand that the new version of American history shows that Africans benefited from slavery.
Well, they did. If you look at who wrote that. If I had people in slavery and reverse this situation, and I had to write about it, and I knew that people throughout the world that didn't condone what I did, I would say the same thing. And if there were books that were written showing that the slaves are real human beings, that they have a right as to be a real human and have the rights and responsibilities and protection of the Constitution, and they did tremendously well and moved to the point where it was almost, I would say, unrecognizable to have been a black in slavery, and in 30 to 70 years or 80 years, you'd have moved from slavery to the president of the United States. Wow. That is unheard of in almost any people in the history of the world.
So are you saying that we've accomplished a great deal, that we've come a long way, that we've arrived?
No, we're nowhere close to arrival, and there's no such thing as we accomplished. It's 2 or 3 in education, in politics, in religion, in economic development. In each of those areas, and I specialize in education and training, economic development, religion, leadership, and politics. And in each of those areas, you might find 5 to 10 blacks that superseded almost any other race in those areas. I told you before, when we had this Doc show, Doc and Sot, that I'm not concerned about that 10% of black folks that made it. I'm concerned about the 90% that didn't. And a lot of you, well, I better not say that. Go ahead.
Well, Doc, we were talking about Father's Day, and I don't want to get away from that too much because it's important. Black men whether they were enslaved, whether they were in bondage, whatever they found themselves, they found a way to be positive, to endure, and to overcome. Now, your father, how old is your father?
He's 102.
102 years old.
That's correct.
What kind of man was he, Doc?
Well, he was a simple, old school black male. He was very interested in education, but he dropped out in the 4th grade to go to work. I've told this true story many times. He was born on a plantation. He lived on a plantation until I was 17. I don't like to talk about it because people say you shouldn't be talking about that. But he was born on a plantation and lived on it until he got married, had 4 or 5 children. And we moved from that plantation when I was 17 years of age. That's all he knew. He was in a position where he didn't even believe that you should migrate to New York City, Chicago, or wherever, or California and get a job, because the plantation owners told him and my grandfather that you all are good workers. You know you don't need to leave us. We give you everything you need. When you need some clothing, we give it to you. We keep you a good job. If you need your house fixed, we fix that for you. If some of your animals die, we'll give you another mule. So what do you worry about? If you die, we'll bury you. So don't worry. You don't need to leave us. You're a good nig. So you stay with us and we're going to look out for you. And that's what they did until my father got to be about 30 years of age. And then he decided when he got to be about 40 that he was going to get off that plantation and buy his own land. And that's what he did. But he made a mistake. And this is a true story. I told people and been telling for years. He went and told a white man that, well, I'm going to be leaving you because I got my own land. Then he told him a few choice words and said, you are certain, cussed and said, you're the best worker I got. You don't need to go and move with those nigs down there in that community. They're no good. Say, you know you can't afford to buy 20 acres of land and feed all them 6 children you got. Say, you stay with us. You're making a mistake. Say, you'll be back in a year. And one weekend, my dad said he and mom moved and took those 6 kids with him. And he would be in his land today if he wasn't in the hospital. He's in the hospital now. I just left earlier this evening.
So he knew the value of owning his own land and getting his children off of the plantation.
That's right. He learned that somewhere, and I think it's because he worked so hard in so many different places. And he told us generally, but he didn't talk about it very much, that he worked with black folks that were doing things that he wasn't doing. Heard that they had kids in high school. Heard that they had children in the military. Heard some of them had professional children. And they were just like he was, hard-working black men and black women. And he wanted to see if he could change a little bit.
And he was in the Mississippi Delta on a plantation.
That's where he started. He started in the Delta, and then we moved, at least not we, but they moved down to Hinds County, Mississippi, down out in the rural area, in the boondock area, where they didn't even have gravel roads. That's where I came up in.
Okay. So, but he understood that blacks were doing better in other places, and he wanted that for his children.
That's right, and himself, because he was making. They didn't have a minimum wage. He was making $2 a day and things like that. And that was my first job when I got over 15 or 16. I got a big time job making $2 a day. Man, I thought that was heaven.
Wow. Now, Doc, our viewers don't understand Mississippi history, and it's not taught in the school, and they don't teach civics anymore in the school. So plantation life in Mississippi, what do you imagine? You may not know firsthand. What do you imagine that was like for black folk?
What you mean imagine? I was on the plantation, I told you, for 17 years. It was what I call hell on earth. But you didn't know it was hell on earth. You give you an example. That's when I really got into the religious world, living on that plantation. And imagine, here you are, a poor farmer, mom and dad working like a slave, the kids, 5 to 10 or 15 years of age, and you out there working somebody else's farm, allegedly yours, that they have allotted to you. And then they're going to tell you, the man of the household, now those little ends can't go to school tomorrow, which is Monday, unless it rains. I'm tired of telling this story. And that's where I got into religion. I learned how to pray. And I prayed hard. And I don't want to tell it, but I'm going to tell it since we are new here and might have some new listeners. I started praying as soon as I would get into bed on Sunday night. And I pray all night, long as I could stay awake, asking for rain so I can go to school Monday. Very seldom did it rain. And I said, I don't believe the Lord is hearing my prayer.
Oh, you didn't want to work the plantation on
No,
Monday.
man.
You wanted to go to
I
school.
wanted to go to school on Monday, man. That work was killing me.
Work was killing you.
Killing me. Because I knew what was going to happen if I didn't.
Doc, my experiences has been that from Hayward, Mississippi, my dad was born in 1910. And, you know, there were two different kinds of white folk in Mississippi.
Tell me about it. I
There
didn't know
was-
but one kind. So
well-
I want to know that other type.
Well,
That
there
you
were
talk
two different types.
Okay, tell me about it.
The more liberal, the more people that the plantation owners themselves were a different kind of person to deal with versus the straw boss that was in place. The poor whites were harder to deal with in terms of the Klan and the riots and the burning and the things of that nature. So I always said that, you know, one of the real ills of the Ku Klux Klan was that it made good white people be quiet. They were more afraid of the Klan than blacks were in that time. And so I found that in every situation, there have been some white folk that understood and helped as much as they could to erase the racism and the bigotry and the terrible lifestyles that blacks were experiencing. White folks started the NAACP, or they were instrumental in starting the organization, the National Association for Advancement of Colored People.
That's correct.
And so there have been some white folk that have tried to do their part to
But, sir,
change this.
what a lot of you all don't seem to understand, when the white folks financially sponsored the NAACP, they didn't have no black people in charge until a few years later. They gave a black person something called, you're the secretary of the NAACP. You're going to be the director, where we're going to send you around in the communities in the respective states to see what's going on. We're going to finance you. We're going to manage the money. We're going to manage the programs and tell you what you can and cannot do. We're going to have our own legal team that we sponsor to do what we tell them to do. And the black secretary of NAACP will go around, he will do his research and take it back up to the headquarters and share it with white folks. And they will restrain the black leaders as they progress to become more involved and got different positions, and keep them maintaining the status quo until the 60s. See, the NAACP started in the early 1900s.
Are you saying that if white folk created the organization so that they could maintain the status quo in the community?
Exactly right. Exactly.
Doc,
Yes.
that is hard for me to grasp when we have I'm a lifetime member of the
Well,
NAACP.
I have that job too, as being a lifetime member, but I'm not one at this period in my life. But I
Well,
was
once you're a lifetime member, you're just a
for years.
lifetime member.
For years, and believed in some of the things that they practiced and wanted to practice. But when it got to the point where they got to be extremed in their ideas and ideology, I decided it was my time to get away from the NAACP and all these people that were running around talking about getting yourself killed and assassinated for your human rights that were not in the Constitution of the United States.
What do you mean it was not in the
Well,
Constitution?
they talking about as a citizen that you had certain liberties and rights, and people don't like to admit and recognize that when they wrote the Constitution of the United States, it was not for black people. Black people were not mentioned in the Constitution directly nor indirectly, and it was not including the so-called Native Americans. And the Constitution of the United States initially did not include white females. And if you read it, since a lot of people don't want to hear and believe the truth, they say it was only for white males that were property owners. That was the Constitution of the United States.
Wow.
Until it was revised later on.
White males, white
Property
supremacy, white dominance has been something that we grew up with, that we've been dealing with all our lives, and
Up to today.
up until today, and apparently it's continuing. And it's evident that it's being orchestrated all over the world. I dare to say that, you know, the conflict in Palestine and the conflict in Lebanon and Iran and places like that are feeling the wrath of that dominance as we speak today.
Exactly. See, you know a lot about the Constitution, don't you?
Yeah.
You sure do. It's a dominant organization that's designed for European Americans and Europeans throughout the world to rule the world. But that's coming to an end.
Or what makes you think it's coming to an end?
Well, because I know a little about history, the history of the world, you're going to have major dominant actors in other areas, arenas of socialism, capitalism, and communism conflicting to the point where there's going to be a total shift in capitalism in the world in the next 50 to 75 years.
Hold your point right there. Doc says that the dominance of white males is coming to an end. We got to go to a commercial break, but when we come back, we want him to talk a little bit more about that and how does it reflect in our everyday lives here in Mississippi and across the rest of the world. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
SocratesGarrettENT.com is a diversified firm specializing in recycled aggregates and crushed concrete. SocratesGarrettENT.com's recycled materials provide the construction industry with significant economic and environmental benefits by recycling clean concrete rubble into M.DOT grade rock materials. Recycled aggregates and crushed concrete can be applied to driveways, road construction, bank protection, parking lots, general bulk fills, and more. By using SocratesGarrettENT.com's crushed concrete products, anyone from homeowners to general contractors can help reduce landfilled concrete waste, conserve natural resources, and gain significant economic savings on materials and disposal costs. For more information, please call 601-896-0084 or visit us online at SocratesGarrettENT.com.
Great day to be working with the We Believe Digital Network. Oh, hey, what's going on? How you doing? I wasn't expecting you to be here yet, but since you're here, hey, welcome to the We Believe Digital Network, where we make your dreams come true. We have a podcast station and a radio station that I'm about to show you. Come on inside. Okay, so now that you're inside, let me take you into the room where we make all the magic happen, right here in the We Believe Digital podcast and radio station studio itself. All right, then, y'all ready? Let's go. Hey, welcome to the behind the scenes room of the We Believe Digital podcast, where all the podcast and engineering happens when we make all the magic happen. I am your engineer, head engineer, JB. How you doing? Hope all is well. Currently right now at the We Believe Digital Network, we have a deal going on for $99 an hour studio sessions. So don't miss out on this opportunity. Let us know if you want it. And reach out to your team and we'll build your dream. Have a good one. Oh, come on in. Hey, welcome to the behind the scenes of the We Believe Digital radio station, where everything We Believe Digital radio takes place. I am currently mixing and mastering a playlist for the radio station. Speaking of that, if you have any suggestions or even your own songs or podcasts or talk shows that you might want to be featured right here on the radio station, you can email us at webelieveplatforms@gmail.com. Catch y'all next week. Hey, feel like your voice needs to be heard? Ever wanted to be on your own podcast or even be a part of one? Guess what? You now can right here at the We Believe Digital Network, but we'll make it happen. You can catch us at this email, at this location, and this phone number.
We're back to all our viewers all over the world. Stay with us. We're dealing with some issues that others dare not tread upon. And that's the kind of content you'll find here at We Believe Digital. We're going to dive into those sensitive areas, those areas that traditionally have been unspoken. And we're going to do our best to uncover, unpack, and enlighten our viewers how things were and how things are and where we're going to go. Doc, you were making some comments that there's going to be changes in the world. And I've been following the world politics and the economics of the world pretty close. I am very, very excited about what's going on in Burkina Faso with Trey Ray over there and the work that he's doing over there in Africa. I am waiting on the United States of Africa to occur. And I believe there's a tremendous effort in place to make that happen. I'm following the growth of the Chinese empire, how China has grown and become a national power when it wasn't many years ago, Doc, that, all of the heroin everything was poured into the country to make absolutely certain that they could not rise, but they have overcome that now in a world power. I'm concerned about the conflict potential with Thailand, and that might be interested there. And I understand that South Korea and North Korea are major players. And so the world has become real small, where everyday citizens like me are able to see what's going on. And the war in Iran has just elevated that to a position that that everybody with a conscience is aware of what's going on. And so the world may be changing. I don't know if it's changing for the betterment of Africans. We seem to be disliked all over the world. So I don't know what it means for us, but there is change in the air.
Well, that's correct. And there are three major groups we have to look at that's going to make this world change. And you mentioned two of them. You mentioned the Chinese and the Americans. And there's another group called the Russians. That's the three-stool chair that's going to be dominating the world. But before that happens, and we have these major changes, you're going to have that war I've been telling you about. Yeah. World War III, Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. And I will repeat it again, since I haven't been on here in a long time. Right now, we are in World War III, Part 1 and 2. There are over 45, when we talked the last time, there were 17 nations involved in that war. Now there are over 45 different nations involved in the conflicts that's going on between America, the Israelis, and the Palestinians and others. They're bombing everywhere over there. And you're going to find some significant changes when the Chinese and the Russians start infiltrating those areas to the point where they try to become dominant. And at the same time, the Africans just are waiting to see if they can be included. But since there is no major nation in the world that love Africans on the African continent, and especially the so-called African Americans in America and the other areas that America dominate, the Caribbean, they're excluding those and just let them lay on the outside because they control them economically right now. So they don't have to worry about the nations of Africa, the 55 different nations. They don't have to worry about the Black Americans. And they don't have to worry about the so-called colored groups in the Caribbean and all the other areas. Just the communists, the Chinese, and the so-called Democrats or the Americans. There will be a major conflict. And when they kill several million, many more than they did in World War II and World War I and Vietnam, things will then get to the point where they will start having leaders assassinated like the Americans and others are doing now. They go to the head of the barrel and start taking the top off the barrel by bombing the leaders. And that's going to be the international scope in the next 10 to 15 years. See, you don't have a lot of soldiers now. You don't even need a lot of soldiers to put on the ground with this artificial intelligence and other technology that's available. You can use your weapons from the bunkers in America and destroy anything you want in the world. And that's why the dominant leaders of the world don't want no one else to have nuclear weapons except those people that have it. But why do you think others that want the weapons and see what's happening to them not going to get them? These countries that will get them a nuclear weapon, even if they have to take it, make it in secret, or buy it from another nation. Because mankind is very greedy. He has a money interest, a power interest, a sex interest, or a drug interest. And you can get any human being that has themselves addicted to one of those four areas, and there's one other that I'm not going to mention, but if you can get one leaders or a group of leaders that's interested in what I just mentioned, and you have facts on them, you can get anything you want in this world.
Wow. Well, I think that Africans are going to have to find a way to make certain that no one can invade the continent, no one can dominate the continent. And I think the diaspora here in America, Black folk, got to find a way to work together. They gotta pool their resources, as you always say, and they gotta come together. There's so much division inside of Africans until it's just hard to imagine how we ever going to come together.
Well, we won't be coming together anytime soon, not collectively as a group of so-called American Blacks. It's not going to happen. So we're going to have to start, instead of looking at that talented tenth that I mentioned earlier, you're going to have to look at the 90% and look at starting what I call inner revolution at the local level. Wherever the blacks are in the majority on the local level, and I've been preaching and teaching this for quite some time, you have to control 95% of those areas that I mentioned: education and training, religion, leadership, economic development, and politics in the areas where you are the majority, starting on the local level. You can't do it on the state level, and you can't do it on the national level. You have to start where you are with what you have with your own leaders, train your leaders, use the resources. You don't have to go looking for a national black leader to come down, because they're not going to do anything for you but take your goods and your services and then leave. So that's what you have to do. And there have been a few grassroots movements where small towns and medium-sized towns got black mayors and others, female mayors included, but they usually got the wrong people. They got the people that were servants to the so-called white middle class that usually got a chance to attend their universities, their schools, medical schools, law schools. And those guys and women were put into these little programs called leadership programs, and brainwashed them, got themselves brainwashed, and they were chosen by the Caucasians to be the possible supervisors, the mayors and others, and they financed those boys and girls, and they got into black communities, and they said, well, we're going to run for mayor, we're going to run for the city council, we're going to run for the Public Service Commission, we're going to be on the Board of Aldermen. They just announced overnight. They didn't go and campaign in the community and look at the leaders of the Black community organization, say, you know, I'm thinking about running for mayor, councilman, or I want to run for the House of Representatives. What do you think? They didn't do that. They just showed up one day on the news. Well, I decided to run for the House. I'm going to be mayor of blank, blank city. I'm going to be a supervisor. They already knew where the money was coming from because they hadn't been campaigning in the Black community. They didn't have a campaign manager yet. They didn't have a voter registration person to go and register new voters. And the voters that were already voting, and I've told you this many times, were already compromised because you didn't have but probably 30 to 35% that was registered, and only about 25 to 23% of those vote in most cases on the local level.
Now, Doc, African Americans elect their leaders, but you're saying they don't elect leaders that came out of the belly of the African American community.
See how smart you are, Mr. Socrates? You're exactly right. A lot of people wouldn't put it that way.
Right.
They elect the type leaders that the white folks been elected among themselves. And they have what they call the best leaders. And the best Black leader is one that's been through the little old leadership programs that's sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce or some other nonprofit organization that got him trained to believe that you're going to have to put a study together to find out why you need to fix the potholes and all that kind of thing. Put a study together, find out how you solve the problem with the youth in the community. Put a study together to find out how to solve the problem of the school board. And then you put it together and ask me for some money, and we'll see if we'll fund it for you.
Now, when I left Xerox Corporation, I attended Alcorn State. Well, let me back up. I first attended school in Farm Haven, Mississippi. My mother was a history teacher there, and she named me Socrates.
Good.
And so she got carried away with her work, Doc.
Sure did.
And so, I then went through Velma Jackson, Farm Haven School, and then Velma Jackson on a new school they built, and we didn't have a gym, or we played ball outdoors on the ground and things of that nature. And then white folk got so bad in Madison County until they mutily, two of my cousins were shot and killed on the Natchez Trace Highway. Doc, then they were run over and then castrated. And that Sunday morning, my daddy put all his boys in the car and took us up to view the greasy spots on the Natchez Trace Highway where they were run over. And so my mother then said, I gotta get my boys out of here. And she didn't have money to send us to no Ivy League school, nowhere like that. But she sent us down to Pineywood School, and we became boarding students. We never came back home. We worked all summer to be able to go to school in the fall down there at Pineywood School. And so, but when I got there, Doc, I was being trained by white folk. They were teaching the classes. They were retired out of the East, and they were coming down to Piney Woods to train the Negroes that was down there. And so I go through a whole litany of things, and I come back out of college graduated, came out of the Army, came out of Xerox Corporation, and I started business for myself. And then Chuck Williams, one of the local Black guys in the belly of the community, him and Robert Clark, and I started a business together. And he said to me, Socrates, you're not an educated man, but you're well trained. I thought that was insulting for him to tell me that I had been trained. And the more I thought about it and the more I learned about it and studied what education really meant, that meant what happened in 1865, what happened in the African American community, why did they build the pyramids, why did the universe, revolve like it does. I didn't have any of that education, but I could make things work according to the plan.
That they gave you, and that your teachers were teaching you how to become a failure. You are not going to expect your enemy to teach you how to be a competitor to them. I don't care how liberal they are, where they come from, they're going to maintain the status quo. And the best way to do that is to teach one yourself. If you are liberal or racist or bigot or conservative, you find the young people to teach those same principles and policies and expect them to follow the guidelines that you give them. And in 9 times out of 9, they're going to do that. They're going to be just like them, like the teachers. That's why if you have a good mother and a good father and they teach you something at home before you go to those kind of places, you will be a better person after you pass your adult years.
Well,
Juvenile years.
We then subscribed and thought that integration was the way out of our situation. And so naturally, the lifestyle that my daddy enjoyed wasn't good enough for me. He said it wasn't good enough for me. He said, I want you to do better. I want you to have better things, live in better houses. He said that to me. And so we were trying to get away from that pain and agony of just having come off the plantation, but yet not having developed in total independence. And so that's a trap there that I don't know how Black folks could have avoided. We run from segregation and all of the discrimination into integration and become marginalized and colonized, become a part of the institution that's the overseers of who we are and what we do. I don't know how we could have avoided that trap.
Well, you couldn't avoid that trap with the training that you had. I told you, you had your enemy as your teacher. And your enemy is not going to teach you how to become independent. They want you to have semi-independence and at the same time be subservient to them. I don't care whether they come from California, New York City, call them a liberal, whatever you want. That's what they do, because they don't care nothing about you other than to keep you working hard, keep you fighting their wars, and keep you beneath them socially and economically. That's the liberals, the moderates, and they don't tell you that, but those conservatives and the racists and others will definitely tell you, you have a specific place, and it is this line right here, and you better not cross it, because if you do, I have something for you. And it's usually jail, prison, or death.
Wow.
Those three, and only those three.
If you cross that line.
If you cross that line. Economically, politically, socially. Now, they don't care too much about your religion, because they have already indoctrinated that religion and trained you to believe that you're supposed to love them, which is your enemy, and turn the other cheek all the time. And they say, if you do that, you're going to be blessed. Even if I killed you, when you die, you're going to go to heaven. And your favorite Jesus is going to take care of you.
And so African Americans believed that so much until we had the old Negro hymnals where we were singing songs like "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, Coming for to Carry Me Home."
When they should have been reaching under the dirt and digging up that pistol that they put there to defend themselves when that supervisor come out there and beat them with those whips and sticks. See, you have to have more martyrs in the world and in groups. There's nothing wrong with being a martyr when someone is coming along, dehumanizing you, killing you, raping you, castrating you, and so forth. You just need a few in every generation to defend the group. See, anytime you don't defend yourself or have someone to defend yourself, and everybody is afraid to die, everybody want to live in hell on earth and take a chance on going to heaven, and then they're going to be surprised, I believe, when they get there, and just take everything and not defend themselves. That's what bullies like. I've worked with bullies for 50 years. They love to be dominant until you separate them and get them in a position where they're by themselves. I don't
Wow.
want to go into that because I told you this many times, and that's the way the people have trained black people to be.
And so we're trained to make absolutely certain that we remain a second-class citizen.
That's right.
A white man doesn't have to do anything now. He's trained us to carry the message. Carter G. Woodson said that, you know, if the Negro couldn't find a back door to go in, he would create one.
That's exactly right.
Because he has now been trained, and he knows that. And Doc, we're running out of time, but this, they're not teaching this anywhere. So you and I have the responsibility to share the information. I had a great deal of respect for Booker T. Washington, and because my uncle and my sisters and my brothers went to Tuskegee, and I had a great deal of respect for him, and I had a little respect for Du Bois. I had a chance to see a documentary on Du Bois the other day, and I misread this guy completely. This guy was trying to get something done. He was trying to make a difference in African Americans' daily lives. Now, I think he coined the phrase "the talented 10th."
He did.
And I don't know exactly why he did that, but he certainly was far more dedicated than Booker T was, as now my education continues.
Well, your education has to be refined. Booker T. Washington made more contributions with his philosophy to black people than Du Bois.
Wow.
Du Bois only was concerned about the 10%. Booker T had his vision on the 90%. He said, if you want to get out of your situation, the first thing you got to do, get a little education and training, learn how to build things, learn how to keep things running, and then move yourself up. Du Bois said, you are the superior one. Don't worry about getting your hands trained, train your mind. I want you to become a lawyer and a doctor, an engineer, and things of that nature. They didn't have the foresight to get together and pool their resources and do both at the same time at the same school. So they got themselves separate because they were being financed by different people, and they created a division among the people that was trying to get the economic power to become citizens. Du Bois, so-called talented 10th, got together. They despised the 90%. They got together, these colleges and universities, built those little groups called sororities and fraternities, and excluded the poor black student that was at that same school. He couldn't get in that sorority fraternities. If you think I'm lying, you look at the pictures, and I don't want to say this again, but I'll say it. Look at the pictures of the first black sororities and fraternities and see who you see.
Who do you see, Doc?
You see mulattoes and other blacks that are 90 to 99% looking white at these schools. And I've been saying for years, if you look at the yearbooks of these schools, all the black schools, up until about 1965, you thought you were looking at a yearbook from the University of Mississippi or New York University. All the black folks were in the back pages, and all the leaders were mulatto type males and females that were running the queens over their organizations, and the little secretaries working in the dean's office.
Doc, we're out of time, but I want our viewers to know that we're going to continue to teach civics. We're going to continue to talk about African American history and the status of African Americans and what do we got to do to turn this thing around. Now, Mayor William Truly was supposed to be our guest today. I have found that Dr. Eldridge Henderson and Mayor William Truly know more about civics and history than any two people that I have encountered. And so I'm looking forward for the day, hopefully very soon, when I can have the opportunity to bring Dr. Truly and Dr. Henderson together at the same time on We Believe platform. And we're just going to chop it up a little bit and talk about where we are and talk about what we got to do to get that. And we're going to take some hard knocks. I'm taking some hard knocks now, having known that I was not an educated man, but a highly trained individual and trained to carry out the missions and the programs of those that were making absolutely certain that we never move beyond a certain point, as Doc said, long as you don't cross that line. And so, Doc, I look forward to that. I think our community, I think the state, and I think the world needs to hear from you and Dr. Truly and myself on occasion.
Well, thank you. I believe you are exactly right on point, sir. We have been brainwashed by those Black folks that's been in these leadership classes too long. And when they got out those leadership classes, I told you before, they got the leadership positions in the community. So you had the same thing, the same philosophy. During slavery, during Reconstruction, and after slavery, where the same Black folks been talking about the same thing. Keeping Blacks equal to the point where they can't cross that line. Keep them fighting. Separate them. And you got them.
Doc, we're going to continue this conversation. Y'all look for us next week, 5:30 on Monday afternoons is our time that we're trying to get this show to have consistency with. And so y'all look forward to that. And until the next time, this has been Dr. Eldridge Henderson and Socrates Garrett. Good evening.
Good evening.